So we're gonna start off with the CRT stuff. As I was saying, likely because it's the longest. So first off, you guys need to know what CRT is. So we do have the Encyclopedia Britannica.
So Britannica.com says, critical race theory, intellectual and social movement, and loosely organized framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not a natural, biologically grounded feature of physically distinct subgroups of human beings, but a socially constructed, culturally invented category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color. Critical race theorists hold that racism is inherent in the law and legal institutions of the United States insofar they function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between whites and non whites, especially African Americans. So, in short, critical race theory talks about the systems, how systems were developed that they inherently promoted or maintained discrimination or hierarchies. So, and the theorists of this theory want to discover where these systems are and how they work, how they can be improved. So that's what critical race theory is.
All right, let's hear what Tucker Carlson thinks.
And that even goes for some of those who've been yelling about it the loudest.
I've never figured out what a critical race theory is, to be totally honest, after a year of talking about it. They're teaching that some races are morally superior to others, that some are inherently sinful and some are inherently saintly, and that's immoral to teach that because it's wrong.
Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen a person confidently complain about something just seconds after admitting they don't know shit about it.
Okay, so yeah, we all know Tucker Carlson's a moron. Surprise of nobody. But we do have a professional in the field who spoke on this. And this is what she had to say.
Critical race theory just says, let's pay attention to what has happened in this country and how what has happened in this country is continuing to create differential outcomes so we can become that country that we say we are. So critical race theory is not anti-patriotic. In fact, it is more patriotic than those who are opposed to it because we believe in the 13th and the 14th and the 15th Amendment. We believe in the promises of equality, and we know we can't get there if we can't confront and talk honestly about inequality.
And so now that you have a bit of an understanding of what CRT actually is, because I kind of felt that it was important that you guys knew what the hell we were talking about before you saw some of the dumbest shit I have ever seen. Because you have to understand this to know how stupid what we're about to look at actually is.
So we are on the Dumb Fact Friday now talking about this.
All right, brace yourselves. Should critical race theory be taught in kindergarten to grade 12? College? At all? Yes. Should this graduate program that's for legal students be taught to kindergartners? Should it? What do you think, Manya? I reject CRT, and apparently this is unconscionable to some, even though I have never expressed why I think CRT is a disingenuous and dangerous ideology that stifles free speech, promotes racism, and facilitates groupthink. Flat earthers reject gravity. So, alright. Besides the fact that this is completely, like, absolutely back-assers, right? Because it's like, we're saying that that CRT should never be taught because it stifles free speech. I don't know what would stifle free speech more than saying nobody's allowed to learn or talk about problems within a structure, right? Whether the problems in that structure be due to racism, whether it be due to, like, current racism or historical racism, being able to draw those lines. Like, this is all stuff that makes sense to talk about, especially in a legal sense. But we know that this isn't quite what they're talking about. Do you want to know where he gets this?
Oh, boy.
Because I tracked it down. I actually went and did some fucking research because I was like, okay, well, I don't know that much about CRT. Let's go fucking find out.
You want to torture yourself, don't you? You're a masochist, aren't you, Chesh?
Is this man, a conservative activist named Christopher Rufo. He claims CRT is actually a revolutionary program that would overturn the principles of the Declaration and destroy the remaining structure of the Constitution, which it just isn't. It isn't that. But in the wake of the George Floyd protests, just as America was beginning to grapple with systemic racism, Fox News began featuring Rufo on air a lot as part of their efforts to swing that pendulum back hard. And in one appearance, he pointed to diversity trainings in government as evidence of CRT's influence. Rufo telling Fox's audience that CRT has really become the default ideology of the public education system. And what Rufo has been cleverly doing is cherry-picking the worst examples that he can find of lessons in classrooms or training materials for teachers and saying, that is CRT. And he's openly admitted that he's been engaged in a deliberate rebranding exercise, tweeting, "We have successfully frozen their brand, critical race theory, into the public conversation and are steadily driving up negative perceptions. The goal is to have the public read something crazy in the newspaper and immediately think critical race theory."
A Fox News conservative conspiracy theory to undermine the progress of America.
And the thing is, it fucking worked. Because whenever you hear CRT now, you are not hearing about the academic discipline. You're hearing about a category so broad, it encompasses both the craziest thing in the newspaper and also, crucially, any conversation about race that someone does not want to have.
And there's your problem right there. Oh no, an uncomfortable conversation, that thing that happens when you learn. College is appropriate, I disagree with CRT. What do you mean you disagree with? You don't know what you're talking about.
Dude!
But you can't stop academics' research, even the bad stuff. The fuck does that mean? Even
What's
the bad
stuff?
When who gets to dictate what the bad stuff is? Oh no, we're older white men, and talking about race makes us uncomfortable. Therefore, it is the bad stuff.
Exactly.
That being said, it is a concept that is in no way appropriate for K-12. Learning in kindergarten that there are people who are different than you, and that means they have a different life experience than you, is totally normal for kindergartners. I learned this shit on Sesame Street.
You can teach this stuff to kids. You just need a good medium, and you need to tone it down or express it in a very different way, simple terms. Like Chesh said, teach kids to not treat people differently. Treat everybody equally.
Being taught and being talked about are not the same thing, though.
Yeah.
Sure. CRT is controversial and arguably a form of social indoctrination if no opposing view is taught with it, which CRT disallows.
What?
Can you show in any of the stuff we've looked at, including the Britannica, how any of this is even remotely the case?
It's a research-based topic, you dipshit. You research in it. You use statistics in it to find out whether you can work on something or not. Listen, what was the source again? Come on, Chesh, let's have a look at it, because this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
So, where's he getting these concepts besides, obviously Fox News? So what is CRT and what resource of the original promoters can I use to understand it? He provides this link. It's a Newsweek article. Luckily, obviously not an original promoter of any kind. Let's look. I pulled up the article, because of course I fucking did.
Yes.
I'll fuck around. So this is the article by Newsweek. And of course, as everybody knows, Newsweek is very right-leaning. Now, we're not going to actually read the article. Why?
Yeah, no.
Because I have something more amusing to show you. First off, this is an opinion piece, as you may have noticed.
Yeah.
So this is not like an article explaining what it is. This is not an article written by people who are proponents of CRT.
Opinion.
This is an opinion
is influeed by bias.
I wanted to show you who these authors are. So this is Richard Vedder, right? Okay, so he's a professor of economics, right? For Ohio University. So economics. Economics. Not social studies, not law. Economics. Yeah. Ohio Universities, and he's a senior fellow at the Independent Institute. Now, he's got some opinions, like Vedder wrote along with Wendell Cox in a December 2016 book, The Walmart Revolution, in which they asserted that criticism of wage practices at Walmart are unfounded. He argued that Walmart workers are paid fairly given their skill and experience, and he stated that they also receive side benefits such as health insurance that is fairly similar to competing firms. He further argued that communities with new Walmart stores have greater total employment and higher incomes. You know, Walmart, who tried to pay their employees with Walmart gift cards.
Oh yeah, that Walmart.
Vedder serves as an adjunct scholar at the American Enterprise Institute and a think tank known mostly for libertarian and conservative perspectives. So this right here is a fellow senior at Independent Institute. What is Independent Institute, you might rightfully be asking, because who the fuck knows what this is?
Yeah, what is it, Chesh?
Yeah, okay, an American libertarian think tank based in Oakland, California, founded in 1986. Independent Institute scholars have criticized the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act on economic, legal, and ethical and privacy grounds. They have leveled several criticisms of Medicare, and they've lamented widespread indifference to the Medicare trustees. They care about the trustees. They argued that healthcare inflation in the United States began with the creation of Medicare. To help curb Medicare spending, Graham has proposed incentivizing enrollees to seek less expensive medical treatments abroad. Independent Institute has criticized the United States Food and Drug Administration, that's the FDA, for what it sees as overregulation as a result of political and bureaucratic incentives. They've argued that the FDA's regulations of healthcare products is hazardous to our health.
Hazardous, FDA, hazardous, overregulation, what?
Senior fellow has questioned the need of the FDA's pre-approval requirements for pharmaceuticals on the grounds that doctors successfully prescribe many drugs for off-label usage. Do you notice the problem with that?
Have they forgotten the crisis that oxycodone came with? And it was a regulated drug.
You only have off-label usages when you have a label in the first place. They argue that rather than always promoting the cause of civil liberties, the legal idea has served, quote, both as an engine and a curb on state power.
Do they know who... to whom the restitution was paid to? It was paid to the people who owned slaves and lost their slaves due to the civil rights movement and couldn't have slaves anymore. Shocking. And they
rich white libertarian think tank is racist. Okay. Criticism of the invasion of Afghanistan. In the aftermath of September 11 attacks, the Independent Institute was an early advocate of using privateers rather than a military invasion.
Oh yeah, let's let contractors come in and charge you 5 times the money that you would have spent on. Already millions and billions have already gone in. Let's pay 5 times more to contractors who come in and charge exorbitant rates. How much commission is this institution getting from those agencies? I would like to know if they did come in, because looks like they have some economic interest in it.
Oh, what? No.
No, nah.
They don't have any economical interest. So speaking of which, for the fiscal year ending on June 30th, 2014, the Institute had a total revenue of $2,775,869. From 2007 to 2011, the Institute took in $12 $1,249,065 from gifts, grants, contributions, and membership fees, and $536,747 in gross income from interest, dividends, payments received on security loans, rents, royalties, and income from similar sources. On June 2nd of 1999, the Institute sponsored a full-page advertisement titled Open Letter on Antitrust Protectionism in the Washington Post and the New York Times. The ads were signed by 240 economists and claimed headline-grabbing cases against Microsoft, Intel, Cisco Systems, Visa, and MasterCard, along with a flurry of merger investigations now underway, would appear to demonstrate the need for a vigorously enforced antitrust policy that will create checks and balances to eliminate consumer harm. However, consumers did not ask for these antitrust actions. Rival business firms did.
Oh, okay.
So they're trying to say you don't need antitrust. It's just about businesses doing business.
Yeah, it's not for the people. It's for the businesses. So they can compete for consumers equally. I think so that's what they wanted.
September 1999, a controversy arose when the New York Times reporter, Joel, stated that the advertisement had been paid for by Microsoft.
What? Why would Microsoft? Okay.
Based on the initial Independent Institute documents, quote, provided to the New York Times by a Microsoft adversary associated with the computer industry who refused to be further identified. Brinkley wrote that Microsoft, quote, had secretly served as the Institute's largest outside financial backer in the last year. Independent Institute internal documents showed that Microsoft had contributed $203,217 in 1999, making the single largest contributor. Brinkley calculated that Microsoft's contribution amounted to 20% of the funds in 1999 from external sources. This is the first guy in that article.
This is only the first guy. Oh, okay.
This is the first guy. This is Amy Wax, the other the other person and the other author. All right, so,
unique name, I would say.
Comes off pretty well at first, right? She's an American lawyer, neurologist, and academic. Right? She's a professor of law at the University of Pennsylvania Law School, and her work addresses in social welfare law policy, as well as the relation of family and the workplace and labor markets. She often has made and then it just immediately falls on its face. She has often made remarks about non-white people, which have been described as white supremacist and racist.
Straight into it. Holy shit.
Yup. Yeah. Okay. In an August 2017 piece in the Philadelphia Inquirer titled "Paying the Price for Breakdown of the Country's..." I forgot how to shit.
Bourgeois
culture. She wrote with San Diego law professor Larry Alexander that since the 1950s, the decline of bourgeois values such as hard work, self-discipline, marriage, and respect for authority had contributed to social ills such as male labor force participation rates going down to Great Depression-level errors, epidemic opioid abuse, half of all children being born to single mothers, and many colored students lacking basic skills. The author asserted that all cultures are not equal, or at least they are not equal in preparing people to be productive in an advanced economy. She told the Daily Pennsylvanian that, quote, everyone wants to go to countries ruled by white Europeans.
So this is the lady who said this. Oh my fucking lord.
Because of their superior mores. In the same interview, Wax strongly emphasized that she did not believe in the superiority of one race over another, but was describing the situation in various countries and cultures. Half of every child to a single mom? That's a big fucking number that you pulled out of your ass.
Yeah, where did you get those numbers from, Amy? Amy, where did your numbers come from?
Take Penn Law School or some top 10 law school. Here's a very inconvenient fact. I don't think I've ever seen a black student graduate in the top quarter of the class, and rarely in the top half. I can think of one or two students who scored in the top half in my required first-year course. And she said that Penn Law School has a racial diversity mandate for its law review. University of Pennsylvania Law School Dean Theodore Ruger responded, quote, "Black students have graduated at the top of the class at Penn Law School, and the law review does not have a diversity mandate. Rather, its editors are selected based on a competitive process." In July of 2019, at Edmund Burke Foundation's inaugural National Conservatism Conference, Wax said, quote, "Embracing cultural distance nationalism means, in effect, taking the position that our country will be better off with more whites and fewer non-whites."
Oh my fucking lord. Oh god. These are the economists who are self-serving, self-centered, and going the easy route.
As a result of the controversies, in March of 2018, Dean Ruger stripped Wax of her duties teaching curriculum courses to the first-year students. He condemned her comments as repugnant. In 2021, Wax wrote that, quote, "The United States is better off with fewer Asians," claiming Asians are ungrateful for the advantages of living in the United States and vote disproportionately for the Democratic Party, which she called mystifying, because the Democratic Party demands equal outcomes despite clear group differences and valorizes blacks. She favorably cited Enoch Powell while calling for stricter race-based immigration restrictions against Asians. In April 2022, Wax said on Tucker Carlson today, oh, we're back to Tucker Carlson, who'd have fucking thought? Oh no, we've gone all the way back around. Blacks and other non-white groups harbor resentment, shame, and envy against Western people for their outsized achievements and contributions. Wax then attacked Indian immigrants for criticizing things in the United States when their country is a shithole, and went on to say that the role of envy and shame in the way that the third world regards the first world creates ingratitude of the most monstrous kind.
Did we Indians hit a nerve when we criticized your system? As I say, that India is regarded as a third world country, but child marriage is prevalent in US. We are outlawing child marriage, with minimum age of marriage being 18 and 21 for females and males, respectively.
So we're not going to talk about the age of all of these elderly white people we're talking about today, because I think that that's not fair to all of the elderly white people that are out there.
Yeah, true.
Seriously, all of them are old white people.
Let's not create stereotypes.
What an inconvenient fact. To make matters a little bit worse.
Oh, come on.
To make matters a little bit worse, we're dealing with critical race theory is racist, promotes racism, and to prove that, I'm gonna cite these clearly racist people,
biased opinion pieces. And
then to defend myself, I'm going to say this. I quote, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Martin Luther King. This is, I believe, not not books that openly advocate for the very antithesis of that brilliant speech. But here's the thing.
But maybe the most insulting distortion of history is in the quote that every single anti-CRT activist seems to love to invoke.
You think about what MLK stood for. He said he didn't want people judged on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character.
You know, I believe it was Martin Luther King that said, when he was talking about his children, that
he didn't want his children to be judged
on the color of their skin,
but by the content of their character.
Content of their character, not by the color of their skin.
Content of our character, not the color of our skin.
And the immortal words of Dr. Martin Luther King ring in our ears that we must judge others not by the
color of their skin,
but by the content of their character.
The left wants us to constantly focus on skin color. It's destructive. Martin Luther King Jr. is rolling over in his grave.
Yeah, you know what? I bet he is, actually. In fact, I'm pretty sure every time someone uses his words that way, Dr. King's illustrious remains spin fast enough to power the eastern fucking seaboard. Here's the thing, though. That dream speech was clearly an aspirational goal, not a description of things as they stood. And in fact, King himself later put a pretty major asterisk on it.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. And I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism.
Tempered with solid realism. Now that's a line to remember.